Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Perspectives Podcast. Today's episode is not an easy one, but I think it's really necessary. And we're going to talk about something that many of us struggle to say out loud, grieving the death of our pets. My name is Yenting, and I'm your host for the podcast. I'm joined today by Noemie. She flew in all the way from Singapore. She worked at Pet Times. And, I think something that we both share in common is that we've both lost pets that we deeply loved. So today, we're going to talk about the love, the goodbye, the guilt, the grief, and the healing. If you're in it or afraid of it, this episode's for you. Now, when it comes to pet grief, there's really no manual or straightforward way. There's no checklist or there's no perfect way to grieve, but somehow over time, we find our own way. And we hope that this conversation helps you feel less lonely and remind you that peace is possible even after a heartbreak. And we truly believe in normalizing these conversations because it is in the hardest moments that we need them the most. So, hi Noemie, thank you so much for flying all the way from Singapore to KL. Welcome to Malaysia.
Thank you so much for having
Very
me.
happy to have you at our studio. And I think before we can talk about grief, we have to start with love because grief exists because of love. I read somewhere that the reason that we're grieving so hard is because we loved hard, like we loved our pets true, like deeply, right? So maybe I'll start by telling you a bit about Euro, and then I would love to hear more about Nico. So Euro, he was a gentle, really funny, slightly grumpy, a very protective, anxious dog. We had 14 years together, 14 beautiful years together, and we had him since day one. And the funny thing is, I still remember how he would always like climb up to my lap whenever there's like a heavy thunderstorm or when it's raining, and he'd be like shivering. And he would be waiting at his bowl like clockwork every day during dinner time, like he knows. And every time before we reach home, he would sense us and he'd be waiting at the door, just waiting for us patiently as we get home every single day without fail. So that is Euro for me. And would love to hear more about your Nico.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, Nico is a cat.
Yeah.
We like to call him our failed foster kitten. So we used to foster kittens from the SPCA from when they were 2 weeks old to 2 months old until they were ready for adoption. So Nico came into my life when he was only 2 or 3 weeks old, so a tiny kitten, and we would bottle feed him. And he got sick one weekend, very sick, and we had to take him to the emergency vet on a Sunday. So we had to pay out of pocket, and he cost us quite a bit of money. So we decided, you know what, we're going to keep this one. He also didn't have a tail, so we thought his chances of getting adopted would be slim. He was a ginger cat, so a bit of a Garfield-looking
Yeah.
creature. And that was Nico's start of life. And ever since then, he just became integral to our world. A funny thing about Nico is because he didn't have a tail and he was quite large for a Singapore cat. Actually, a lot of vets refused to believe he was born in Singapore just because of sheer
How
body weight.
heavy was he?
He was about 8 kg, but not obese, just a big cat.
Slightly, yeah.
Yes.
Slightly chunky, probably.
So, a bit chunky, yeah. He loved his food. And what happened was when he was running, because of his size and lack of tail to balance him, he would run slightly sideways, so he could never run in a straight line, which is
So cute.
quite a funny thing to watch, especially when you see him chasing after rats because he was an outdoor cat. So that's Nico in a nutshell. But
That's so cute, so lovely. Okay, so that is, something about Euro and Nico, and I think we want to talk about the final days and the goodbye as well. Maybe can you walk me through Nico's final days? Was it something that was planned for? Like, how did it happen?
So Nico was 10 years old when he passed away, and he passed away last December 24th on Christmas Eve. And what happened was that week leading up to the 24th, he had slowly stopped eating as often. As I mentioned, he was chunky, so that was on our radar as a bit odd. But sometimes cats get some stomach issues, and like I mentioned, he was an outdoor cat, so we didn't have control over what he ate or if he got in fights. So for us, it was quite normal for him sometimes to feel a bit ill, but he'd come back and he would be fine. So we just thought, let's give him a few days, see how it works out. And what happened was, after 2 days of not eating at all and sleeping way more often than he should have, we thought that we should take him to the vet and just make sure everything's all right. And we took him to the vet the 23rd of December, or sorry, the 22nd. And they did a full run of tests, and they found out that he had a tumor about the size of a tennis ball in his stomach, and there was some fluid in his lungs, and just a whole list of diagnostics of things that was wrong with him. And they just told us all of this and said, listen, take him home, we'll give you some medication, monitor him, and we'll see you back in a few days. So we took him home. Well, he spent a night at the vet for observation. The morning after, we took him home, and he could barely walk. He was soiling himself.
Yeah.
He was not eating, so we could not give him any medication. And that was the 23rd going over into the 24th. And us as a family, this was not Nico. This wasn't our cat. Nico was clearly suffering. He loved food. So if he's not eating, he's not happy.
Yeah.
And also, it was the holidays, and we couldn't in good faith spend a holiday knowing that Nico was in the corner,
Yeah.
dying, essentially. So the day of the 24th, we thought, we're going to make the very hard decision to put him down. And we called our vet, but unfortunately, it is a holiday. They only had a slot to go into the clinic for euthanasia at a certain time. And we didn't want it to be a clinical procedure. We wanted it to be warm, surrounded by his family, in a place that he was familiar with. So they gave us a name of a wonderful vet in Singapore, and she specializes in at-home euthanasia. She has a mobile clinic. And we messaged her, and within the hour, she was at our house, and she just organized the beautiful ceremony, which maybe we can go into detail a bit after.
Yeah.
But that's how he passed, very suddenly. We did have time to say goodbye, which is what I'm most happy about, but it was a very sudden passing.
Wow. I mean, there's so much to uncat to like kind of like look into. There's so much that I want to touch upon in the story that you mentioned about the last moments of seeing how your pet stopped eating. I think that's, for me as well, for you, was also about 9 to close to 10 kg. It was pretty chunky as well. And like, to your point, like the minute they stop eating, like that they're not happy, they're probably suffering. For me, Euro as well, like he actually passed away on the 27th December last year. So very close to just a few days apart. And for Euro, it was in the clinic. And at first he was actually doing okay, but he actually stopped eating for about probably about 1 month or so, but like on and off. He would like eat again, and then he would stop eating. So like, and we knew that he had a heart condition that then led to a lot of other issues as well. But the day when it happened, he was in and out of clinic, and the vet actually texted me saying that he's okay now and he's stable. Just come anytime. And before I could even reply, I was gonna say like I'll be there in about an hour or so. They called me and said like, come to the clinic now. Like, he's not doing well. And like, I think for pet parents, when you receive calls like that, it's just like you're in full on panic mode, right? Like, what do I do? And then when we got to the vet, the doctor told me that he was actually already sleeping away. Like, his breathing was actually becoming really, really faint. But he really just held on. And the funny thing was, right before, when they called me, he had vomited blood, and he was really not in a very good state. He was like, you could tell that he was going. When we arrived, we rang the doorbell because it was like 7 p.m. or something. When we rang the doorbell, he just fully like was on alert mode. He just like stood up and like as if he knew it was us at the door. Yeah. And the doctors were so shocked. They were like, oh my gosh, like he's fully alert again. So we got there right in time. And I think, well, I don't know if we got there right in time. I feel like he really waited for us. And we got to spend about 15-20 minutes together, holding him, kissing him, just talking to him, telling him that we love him. And we were there for him right till the end, when he took his last breath. So that moment, I think, truly lives in me forever. And it's really, even though it's really heartbreaking, I think it's a memory that I will cherish forever. So it's not easy, I think, saying goodbye.
Not at all, but to be there with them at that moment is beautiful. in its own
Exactly.
way.
Yeah. And I think you talked about euthanasia just now, right? And it's a big conversation around it. I know a lot of pet parents actually um, going through grief and like the death and going through grief is one thing, but knowing that you make the decision of euthanizing your pet is another thing as well. It's something that pet parents really, really wrestle with, and I want to take a moment to talk about it because it possibly is one of the hardest decision as a pet parent that you would make, right? So I've spoken to other pet parents who've gone through it and they've shared how heavy that moment is. Can you share a little bit about how you come to make that decision? Yeah.
I would say, interestingly, for me, it wasn't a difficult decision because for me, it was more painful to watch him suffer than
Yeah.
to give him, we like to call it the final gift of his life, which is being able to pass away pain-free and peacefully. The reason why I really wanted to shed light on this issue in the past magazine of the Pet Times was because when this happened, we had quite a difficult time with our vet clinic leading up to it. We thought that they wanted to, of course, elongate Nico's life for the benefit of the owners.
Yeah.
I think for veterinarians, it's very difficult to say your pet is passing away or will die. You should think about letting them go. I think as a veterinarian, you must encounter many owners that are emotional at a very low point. And so it's a very tough thing to tell owners. And I completely understand their job is for the welfare of the pet. So of course they want your pet to survive, to do well, to get healthier. When this was happening, Nico's diagnosis was terminal. We knew that as owners. We're very comfortable with that. As a veterinarian, I think it's a lot harder to say your pet will die. So they give you a lot of medications. They tell you come back in a few days. And I think that's a way for them to ease owners into the ultimate decision, which maybe happened to Euro, was that they will pass away naturally.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I think we would have preferred in the moment for our veterinarian to say, we're not going to give you medication. Nico would be a lot better off if you...
But they can't say that.
They can't say that.
Yeah.
A part of it was after this happened, I interviewed many veterinarians in Singapore, and they say a large part of the reason they don't say it, a lot of them do, is because pet owners don't want to hear it. So there's a way of going around it and saying, listen, we'd love to monitor the quality of life of your pet. If you believe that it's not up to standard or this isn't the quality of life you'd like for your pet, here are the options for you.
Right.
But to outwardly say your pet is very sick, we recommend you put him down, that's just heartless. Of course, a veterinarian is not going to say that. So they have a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. And so for us, because I'm in the pet industry, I'm quite familiar with this stage of a pet's life. And ultimately, every pet owner will have to go through it.
Yeah.
No pet owner wants to think about it. So for us, it was a relatively easy decision to make, but very difficult in the sense that you're the one putting that on your shoulders. And I was the one in the family too. He was our family cat. And because I got him when he was a few weeks old, it was my decision in the end. So it's a very heavy feeling.
It is. I think for me, I think it really reminded me as well, like what happened on the final moments. So when we reached the vet and he saw us and he was already kind of like slipping away, but all we wanted to do was to just like hug him and like to just like be with him and just let him slowly kind of like leave us. But the vet was actually trying to resuscitate him. And I think like she was not quitting. Like she just kept going until and then we were like, stop doing it, because like it's okay, just let him go. And she said that like, no, it's my duty, and like you need to tell me to stop if you want me to stop. So I think it's really like to your point, the vet's like, it's hard.
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult.
It's a very fine line that they have to draw. And if you're dealing with an owner, actually, I don't even want to say owner, you know, a lot of it's akin to a parent-child relationship.
Yeah.
So if you have your pet who you've loved for years and years and years, and it's been a full devotion, unconditional love, it's very heavy on a veterinarian's shoulders of balancing their medical, logical brain of saying this pet is passing away and then having someone break down in front of you.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's also important to your point, like to also probably listen to your pet and see the state that they're at. And I think someone has told me this, they will show you when they're ready to go. And I think you would know that you've eventually made the right decision, even though it was a hard one. But as a pet parent, you will always know how to make the right decision. Yeah. So yeah, I think pet parents, if you are struggling with all the what ifs and feeling unsure, know this: it really isn't about choosing the perfect moment. It is about making the most loving choice you can with the information and the heart you have at that time. And I think that's enough, right? So for me, after Euro's passing, I actually felt a lot of like guilt afterwards as well. Like it's just like random moments that hit me every now and then. I don't know if you've ever felt that grief feeling that comes every now and then, but like I've always had a lot of thoughts around like, oh, maybe what would happen if probably, if I changed his diet sooner, or what if like I caught the signs earlier, or what if I sent him to the vet earlier? Like all of these what ifs comes on repeat. And it took me a while to realize that guilt is actually grief's shadow. And after talking to many pet parents, I realized that it's a cycle that every pet parent kind of go through. And no matter how good you are as a pet parent, you will always feel like, oh, probably, you could have done better or you didn't make the right choice, right? In your March article of the Pet Times, where you talked about Nico, you mentioned that in the midst of your grief, you found clarity. And I really liked that. I thought that was very refreshing. Can you share more about what helped you create peace?
Sure. I think it was the idea that he had a beautiful life. I mentioned he's an outdoor cat. That comes with a lot of risks, right? They're exposed to more bacteria. They get into fights with other street cats. You can't control what they do outside. But that was a very active decision we made because he loved being outdoors. And part of that was when we lost him, it was that idea of, oh my God, we didn't pay close enough attention to him. We weren't controlling what he was eating.
Yeah.
And he did do a blood test a few months prior for a checkup. But I think what's also interesting and different, it's good that, you have Euro to speak from the dog perspective, Nico from the cat. Both pets handle dying very differently.
Oh.
And so when I was putting together that article and interviewing many veterinarians, I wanted to make sure we also spoke to different types of pet owners because for
Right.
cats, they can hide their symptoms very, very well, and they hide them a lot better than dogs. So Nico's tumor was growing for months, and it was undetectable in the blood tests we had earlier this year.
How is that possible? That's crazy.
And he had no symptoms until 3 days prior to his death. And when I spoke about clarity in my article, it was afterwards was definitely that feeling of guilt. But then speaking with the veterinarian that put him down, she said cats hide it so incredibly well because of their survival instinct, which is in the wild, first of all, they will find a quiet, dark place to die. So they will spend less time with you, which is what Nico did. He found a shower in a corner of the house and he slept there all day. He wanted to be away from us. Even the day he died, he would limp to a corner in the garden. He didn't want to be with us. So she reassured us that is what they do. And they hide their symptoms. They have incredible power to hide their pain. So as a pet owner, as a cat owner, don't beat yourself up if you didn't pick up on the signs. Cats are built to hide it. Similarly to dogs, dogs hide it less well because dogs are more open in the way they project their emotions. They wag their tail, they run up to you. They're a lot more engaged typically with their expressive.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when your dog stops wagging his tail or barking, you can pick up on that more quickly. But she did say that with dogs, their capacity to stay on longer, they're a lot bigger. If your dog falls ill, they can draw on their capacity to stay alive for a few more weeks because they want to please you. And so it's also not a feeling of guilt. It's that pets love you. A lot of them will hide their pain or stay on a bit longer because they don't want to leave you.
Yeah.
A lot of it is out of our control as pet owners.
Oh, I didn't actually know that about the difference between like cat and dogs and the way that they would behave in their last moments. That's really interesting. So for me, I think what has really helped me is to kind of like reframe my thoughts. I think when when he first left me, I kept thinking that I lost him. We lost him. We lost like our first dog. We lost my heart dog. Like you were saying just now, the relationship is akin to pet and child, right? I feel like I lost my child. But now I think it's changed. It's more of like, instead of thinking that I lost him, I started telling myself that this love and memories that I have with him were so real. It happened, and it's something that will stay within me forever. So I think that's just how I kind of found peace as well. And I really gave myself full permission to feel everything. Like I cried a lot every single day. For the first few months. I don't know
Me too.
about you. I'm just
Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, it hits a bit harder.
It does, yeah. And I learned that it's something that we have to move through. And it's a process, right? And I also talk to a lot of friends, pet parents. I talk to you. I talk to people who gets it, and I just find so much comfort knowing that we all go through the same thing. And I was actually really surprised. Like few people texting me. I didn't expect people to like text me, and they were saying that, oh, they also had a pet and they went through something similar. And obviously there were also a few people that said something that were not so nice that we're going to talk about in a little bit as well. But right now, after having experienced it myself, I make it a point to also check in with other friends who are also going through something similar, and just, I guess, just showing up. It's something that matters to a lot of people, right? Um, and I think one thing that I've realized is how different grief feels when it comes to our pet. It's very different when a human dies. It's no, but when a human dies, I think the grief can be very layered. It's a lot more complex and complicated. You may also carry guilt, of course, but like anger and probably some unresolved issues. But with our pets, like, it's so pure.
Yeah.
Which is why it just feels so painful when they leave us. They don't judge us, they don't disappoint us. It's just pure love. So I just want to also hear from like you, like what do you think about like the difference between um like people say that they cried harder when their dog leave versus like a relative, for example. And it is the same for me. It's not that I didn't love my relative or someone in the family. It's just that the love that I had for my dog felt a lot more uncomplicated. Does this resonate with like your experience?
I think absolutely you hit the nail on the head. Is their pure love and devotion to you just makes that moment all the more hard to do. And I also think the idea that you can't communicate with them what's happening. So with a relative or a human, depending on the circumstance, of course, they know what's going on. They have grasped the concept of death, or that they have. As a pet, you want to say, you're going to be okay. I know you feel pain, because they're probably thinking, why am I in pain? What's happening? Why are there these foreign people around me like vets? Why am I in a clinical environment? Why am I not at home? So there's all these foreign things happening to them in the last few moments of their life. So they're probably very confused, very scared. And I think that's what hurt the most for me was, I don't want him to feel alone or scared. I want him to pass away at home. That was also one of the main reasons we decided for home euthanasia. But I completely agree with you. It's a different type of grief. And it's also because society does not accept it the same way as human grief. As you mentioned, some people don't understand if they don't have a pet or have never lost a pet. It's hard to explain why you feel so sad. And then the immediate reply is, why don't you just get another pet? They're all the same. They'll make the argument, they're all the same. You just get another dog, get another cat. I think there's that aspect too. We were actually not permitted the time to grieve. For example, I'm not sure how it is in Malaysia, but in Singapore, there's a movement to introduce compassionate leave for pets, because a lot of the time, your pet is your companion. The pet is the only living thing in your apartment aside from yourself. So for many people, this is integral to their day-to-day life. And when that passes away, you should give maybe your employees some time to grieve.
It's amazing. I don't think we have that in Malaysia.
I mean, not yet in Singapore, but there's definitely a movement for that. And I think that'll allow people to grieve more openly in a more healthy way, rather than trying to suppress it because you think you're not allowed to.
100%, 100%. I think you talked about, oh my gosh, it's so true what you said about not being able to communicate, like to tell them that they'll be okay, and like to answer all of their like what was going through during the last moments in their life, right? I think, I've always actually wondered what was Euro actually thinking in his final moments. And I remember him just like staring at me, just like looking at me. And I was just thinking like, is he scared? Is he in pain? Like, how do I make him feel better? And I think the least, exactly to your point, the least we can do is to just be there for them at the very last moment, right? What do you think Nico was actually thinking about in his last few moments before he
Actually,
left?
this is not a funny story because it's about the day he died, but the whole process of the euthanasia was beautiful because of the way it was handled with our veterinarian. So we prepared a bed for him in our garden, and actually it was raining that day. There was a storm, and we like to say that, the skies were crying for Nico,
Yeah.
and we had an entire family around him. But the process of euthanasia does involve a few steps, and one of them is a drug to make them feel a bit, our veterinarian said, a bit drunk. She said,
Okay.
Nico's going to feel like he's had a few too many glasses of champagne.
Right.
So that's the first step, is to just release the pain and make them feel calm. And then progressively with each step, they near the end of their life. So I think Nico, when he got that first injection, might have felt a bit drunk for the first time in his life.
Yeah.
So we think he was probably happy. He had his family around him, our dog as well, who grew up with him. So our dog is 16 years old. So he raised Nico as well. And our veterinarian advised that he was there for his passing. So our dog was next to him, literally right side by side, sniffing him, making sure he was okay. So I'd like to think Nico was in a very good place when he passed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, since we're on that topic, like that, so how did did you have like a ceremony for him? How did the whole thing go?
So the ceremony was integral part to his passing. Like I mentioned, we didn't want it to be in a clinical environment because we didn't want to add more stress to its final moment if in our control. Since it was in our control, we could permit that.
Yeah.
So we had it at home. We laid out a bed and we had flowers around him, incense.
Beautiful.
Some of these things the veterinarian brought, some of these things we brought. And the family gathered, and you start first with that primary injection, which is to make them, to take away the pain. So they're still awake. They're just a little bit drowsy, but they're very aware of their surroundings, but with no pain. And you take a moment to go around and you speak about all the love you have for Nico, and you say a funny story. And it's just a way to kind of get out how you're feeling about him while he's still awake. And you're hoping that he hears it and he's hearing your voice. So that's the first step. And the second step is to put him to sleep. So he's still alive, but now he's sleeping. So he can still hear. He's still aware that there's people around him and he's asleep. And then that's when the veterinarian starts talking to you about the final stage. And that's when it gets a bit more emotional. That's when you realize, okay, the next step is it. And that's a very hard moment to grasp because a part of you wants to say, no, stop.
Yeah.
Go back to the previous step.
Yeah.
Remember when he was okay and awake and no pain? Can we just keep him in that state forever?
Yeah.
So that's when you realize that there's no going back. And that's a very fragile moment for the vet as well. And she just handled it beautifully. And then the final stage is what will make his heart stop beating. So what will happen is the vet will listen in on his heartbeat and will tell you the heartbeats he has left. So you know exactly when he's passed and you see him slowly, slowly fall asleep. But it's beautiful because he's falling asleep amongst flowers on a bed.
Yeah.
And then that moment where she tells you his heart has stopped is just, honestly, it's relief. A little part of it is relief because you can say he's gone. No more
He's no
pain.
longer suffering.
He's no longer suffering. There's nothing more we can do. We've done it all.
Yeah.
He's gone. And that's just a feeling that you can't explain. Yeah, it was beautiful.
So how long like from start to the end, how long did the whole euthanasia process took?
1 hour.
Okay.
And that's intentional on the veterinarian side because she wanted the time for us to say goodbye. So you could do it quicker if you would like, but it's intentionally step by step so that you have the time to say goodbye and for the animal as well adjust to the cycle, because there are moments sometimes with euthanasia where actually if it's done too quickly, the animal can suddenly become alert because its survival instincts kick in.
Oh, wow.
And so for many pet parents, it can be a bit traumatizing when you go to a clinic and it's done a bit quickly for reasons, because there's slots and it's nothing, they're not in pain. It's just their natural instinct. And so when you see your pet suddenly perk up, like you mentioned, Euro perked up, there must have been a part of you that thought, oh, he's still in there.
Yeah.
He's still got fight left in him. But then that's just their last, like when he saw you was probably his last energy to say, I want to say goodbye. I want to show them that I'm still here and I'm saying goodbye. And then as a pet parent, it's a very awkward moment because
you feel like, okay, like maybe he'll be fine.
yeah, like give them more antibiotics and help give them more medicine, but
Yeah.
it's just their natural response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, for Euro, because he left naturally, and we've always wanted to have, like, if I were to think about what's the best way for him to leave me, I want it to be at home, like just like how you have with Nico. But in our case, Euro actually left naturally in the clinic. And what we did was we actually brought him home that night. And we put him in the living room with the AC on that whole night to keep him kind of like cold. And we actually engaged with a pet memorial company. And they came the next day in the morning. So we kind of had the night to be with him. And that was really beautiful, but also like really, really painful because like seeing him there at home, but he's no longer moving. It was really heartbreaking. But the memorial service came the next morning. And it was a beautiful ritual as well. Like they picked him up. It was a very nicely done ritual where they have like a truck. And at the back of the trunk, it's actually a very beautifully decorated space. So they put Euro in there, and there's like a bit of flowers, and like there's a bit of like lights and like music and everything. And we all could like put flowers. We all took turns to put flowers and also like say our last goodbyes. And to your point, like that was really hard, but it's also a very beautiful thing. And I'm so glad that we get to do that ritual for him. And I think just actually doing that was a release for us.
And the ceremony matters just as it does with a human.
Definitely, yeah. So I definitely feel like, as pet parents, it's something that we don't. For me as a pet parent, I've always avoided reaching out to memorial services or like finding out, because I just feel like I don't want that day to come. But actually, like I think like find the courage for pet parents, find the courage to like do that, think about that even when you may think that it's early on in the stage, but like start thinking about that, because I think it is a beautiful moment to cherish as pet parents. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about all the things that people said to you when a pet passed, right? What was the worst that you've heard?
You know what? Actually, I received incredible support when Nico passed.
Yeah.
I think also my community was full of a lot of pet owners, and I got great feedback on the issue too when it was launched. When we do our launches, we have private events with our partners and contributors and pet owners. And even owners there that had not, had their pet with them, had not passed, they got quite emotional because it's the first time where there was a space to acknowledge that this is your pet, they love you, but cherish them now because everyone's going to be going through this soon. So actually I received a lot of support for Nico. He was also a bit of a legend amongst my friend group, everyone loved him. And when they would come over for dinners, you'd see this big chunky ginger cat waddling around trying to get some food from you. So he was integral to my community. So I think when he passed, everyone was...
It's incredible.
Everyone, so I was very lucky. And I think the pet community in Singapore is also very strong.
Yeah.
So everyone understands it a little bit.
So like before we actually recorded the episode, we actually put some questions out there to the listeners, like, what are some things that you like to hear about when we talk about pet grief? And I think one of the most commonly requested topic or question was, what do I say to someone whose pet just passed away? And I think it's a very genuine question because maybe they come from a place of like not knowing what to say, and it's like you say, it's kind of awkward like when it happens. I too received incredible support as well, but there was like a few people that probably said some nasty. I mean, for me at that point in time, I felt like it was like nasty, but I'm sure for them it actually meant no harm. So yeah, I want to talk about the shit that people say. So like someone actually said like, oh, like it's just a dog. Like why don't we just get another dog? Like, and I know that person means no harm, but like it's not just another
It's
dog,
not just
you
a
know?
dog, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And I know that people may mean well, but sometimes I think if your friend is going through it, sometimes being silent and just being there for them, showing up, and showing kindness, that's what really matters, I think, for pet parents. Um, some of the other questions that we get from listeners are, am I crazy for still crying after 3 months? What do you think?
I mean, absolutely not, right? It's
Yeah.
memories also don't have an expiry date. And I think to your point, what's the best thing to say to someone whose pet has passed is exactly how you began this episode, is talk about the good moments, why you love them.
Yeah.
You know, ask your friend, oh, I remember when Euro did this or when we were hanging out, and remind your friend of the happy and good times so that they can
Good
reflect
advice.
on, yeah, having that beautiful moment with their pet rather than the sadder end of their life. I think that's an excellent way to approach it.
So shed like a positive light on it instead of,
Yeah,
it's
and then
really
of
nice.
course saying I'm so sorry, all the natural condolences. But the way you started this episode was absolutely perfect, because when we do look back at their life, we're not looking back at, this last moment. We're looking back at the decade or so that they've given us of pure unconditional love,
Yeah.
which you can never find.
Yeah, it's true. I think like the first few months especially, or like the first month for me, like I can't stop replaying the last moments of his life.
course.
But then as time goes by, and like, yeah, you're right, like I get reminded of like all the good times that we've had. And I think as pet parents, as we are going through grief, always remember that like you've had, X amount of years with them.
Yeah.
Think of all the good times, right? Focus on the good times. Another question that I received, and I would love to get your opinion on this as well, is, can I ever love another pet the same? What do you think? Because I know you have another pet, but your dog grew up with Nico, right? So
Yes.
like, how do you feel about navigating that?
I think pets come at different chapters in your life. So Nico and my dog Benny they grew up with me as well. I got them when I was young. They've seen me through late teenagehood to adulthood, and that's a very crucial part of my life. So, there's the saying soul dog, soul cat. They were definitely, and Benny still is my soul dog. So they'll always have a special place in my heart. Saying that, the last few months, have I been on adoption sites? I love animals. So for me, of course, I can love another cat the same way I love Nico. Will there ever be another Nico? Never. I mean, biologically, he's a special cat. Even the vets say it. So he will be unique forever.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, animals are there to be loved. Pets are there to be loved and cared for. But they will have their distinct personalities. They'll always be special. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And they come at just the right time when you need them and they need you. And I think that's a really special connection to have.
I think it's really about like trusting the process, letting yourself just like naturally heal. And I feel like when you are ready, you would know.
Yeah, you'll find that connection again. Maybe if you walk in a pet shop or an NGO or a shelter,
Yeah.
you'll get that little spark again and you'll say, oh, you're meant to be with me. And I think that's really special.
That's really special. Last question that I got from listeners is, how do I deal with guilt and what if thoughts?
You can be the only person to relieve yourself of the guilt, right? No one's going to do that for you. I think, we're different in the sense that with euthanasia, I did get a lot more comments on my decision to do so. People, especially from pet owners that were approaching the same timeline with their pets that were aging. They asked me a lot of questions of, why did you decide to do it? Nico was only 10 years old, quite young for a cat. And it didn't come with guilt, but it came with a lot of reflection. At this moment, I don't feel any guilt for how Nico passed away. I actually feel like we did the right thing for him in that circumstance. Saying that, a part of the article in our issue, I wanted to get as many perspectives as possible. I didn't want to just have my perspective and say, this is the correct way to do things. Everyone must put down their pet. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Every case is distinct. So we actually interviewed another pet owner who had a cat, also a ginger cat, adopted, but who was 16 years old. And he had went through many different medical issues. Everyone was telling her to put him down, but she wanted to fight for him.
Okay.
And her vet wanted to fight for him, and they fought. And I visited him a few weeks ago, and he's 18 now, and he's doing well. He's healthy, he's running, he's eating. But 2 years ago, people told her to put him down. And so I think there's no right way to do it. There's a
Yeah.
right way to do it for your pet, and you're the only one that can make that decision.
Yeah.
No one else can place the blame on you or the guilt on you. Do what's right for your pet, and you'll feel fine.
Yeah. That's amazing advice. And I think really as pet parents, like you would make the right decision for your pet. Like always trust your instinct, I
Yeah,
guess.
trust your gut.
Yeah, and with grieving, it's really about finding your own way and taking the time and finding out what really works out for you. And I think those what if thoughts will just naturally just kind of like go away as well. That's really amazing advice. Thank you for sharing all of that. As a closing tradition for this podcast, we actually ask all our guests the same question, same closing question. What is one perspective that has changed your life?
I would say, and this is across all aspects of my life, is let it be easy. I think as humans, we tend to think you have to struggle to get something special. Whether that's work, you have to work overtime to make sure what you're doing is correct. You have to, in relationships, work hard at it so that it lasts longer. I think there's a difference between struggle and forced. And I think in life, sometimes you just have to let it be easy. And I apply that to Nico. Nico, we could have easily fought until the bitter end, and there would have been the same outcome. And I think the moment, going back to your point of clarity for me, was saying, let it be easy. Let him go. And that does a switch in your brain of it's going to be all right. It takes away the guilt. It takes away the hardship. And applying that to every aspect of your life, whether it be relationships, work, love, it's a very calming perspective to have on life.
Let
And I
it be
think
easy. Yeah.
we tend to forget, life is supposed to be hard because then it means you're more successful. And sometimes it's not supposed to be that hard. You can take that off your shoulders by telling yourself, let it be easy. So I would say that is a perspective that has fundamentally changed the way I view life.
Wow, that's amazing. And did you get that perspective after being like a pet parent, or like how did that come to you?
I think it's just been my way of living for a while, and it took a long time to get here. But as a pet parent, and the moment I had with Nico made it all the more clear. And my dog is 16 now, and going into
Benny, yeah.
going into his senior years, I actually feel a lot more calm about that moment where he starts deteriorating and coming to that decision because of Nico. And I feel a lot more at peace with it. So it takes some time to get to
That's
that.
hard. That's hard to get to that level. That's like,
Yes.
like
And of course, I want him to live forever.
and
An ideal situation is he lives forever.
yeah.
But of course, we know that's never going to happen. So
I saw a reel the other day that says like dear scientists, like stop working. I don't want like my iPhone or like Tesla. I just want to know how my dog can live forever. And I was like totally resonate with that.
yeah, there's actually a really beautiful, it's not a saying, but a perspective as well that, humans live until 80, 90, 100 years old because it takes a long time for us to figure out how to love unconditionally. And dogs stay here for a shorter period of time because they get it done quicker. For them, it's effortless. So God or whoever universe puts them on this earth because they just give it immediately. So they don't need to stay on earth as long. And they can become angels quicker.
I love that.
And I love that saying because it's true. When they're here, all they do is love. All they do is love.
Pure unconditional love.
So why do they need to stay longer? They've done their job. And now they're somewhere else giving love in another way.
Oh my gosh, I just love that so much. Thank you for sharing all of that. And wow, I think you've shared a lot of very wise advice. And it really made me feel a lot calmer as well when it comes to handling our pets as they become senior dogs, as they go through, I guess, the cycle of life. It's something that will happen inevitably. So here's what I want to leave all you pet parents with. I think we really need to talk about this. We need to talk about the grief, the loss, the death, because it's all part of life. And it is hard to say it out loud, but sometimes, having someone that would sit with you and talk through it, like what we're doing today, and you just listening to this episode would make all of us, this community be stronger and all of us go through this together. And really, kindness is what our pets give us every single day. And love, kindness and love, right? And they didn't care or they didn't get angry with us, maybe a little bit, but not too much if we forgot their dinner, or if we accidentally stepped on their paw, for example. They just loved us unconditionally. And when a pet you love dies, what you need most is that same kindness for yourself and from someone who gets it. So that's why I hope that we can all be a little bit open, be a lot more open actually to share our stories, break the silence, because when we talk about it, we actually find each other and we find that healing too. And the second thing is, I love what you say about let it be easy. Yeah. Healing after losing your pet is all about forgiving yourself for the hard decisions. So if you're in the thick of it, remember that you will find that peace within you. You will heal even after a lot of heartbreak. And there is definitely a way forward. So yes, thank you so much, Noemie, for being on this episode. And I think this is for Euro and Nico as well.
This is for Euro, Nico, and
Yes.
all the other pets out there, pet
Ex-
owners that are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.